Hey, good morning. It's week 3 for Storytime with Brian. Hey, all the news last week, President Obama goes to Cuba, and I thought, I've been to Cuba, I should tell a Cuban story. So last week, as we began to think about stories from Cuba, I couldn't put together anything that was appropriate, non-political. So I have my own opinions about the president's visit and what's happening there, and the good parts, the bad parts, and the promises being made. So I thought I'd tell a story. The second time I was in Cuba, it was about 2005. We had taken a bunch of, quite a few high schoolers and young people there to work on some construction projects for the church. At the end of the 10 days, we were in a hotel in Havana. Not a great place, not a bad place, but it had a nice little restaurant in the lobby and a bar. And it was our last night there. Everybody was pretty wore out. We had done some shopping that day, and everybody had gone upstairs and gone to bed. And I had bought a cigar at the Partigas factory earlier that day, and I really wanted to have a mojito. So I had gone to the bar and sat down and started talking to the bartender. Ordered a mojito. If you're gonna have a mojito, have it in Havana. And lit the cigar. And when I noticed about that time a mariachi band had set up in the lobby in the bar area and was beginning to warm up. And shortly before the mariachi band got ready, a whole bunch of Mexican tourists had come down from their rooms in the hotel. And some had come from the pool, and they were all just sort of milling around just like me, cigars and drinks and some food. And then the mariachi band started, and I found myself in a surreal situation where I was in Havana on a Friday night in a bar with a bunch of Mexicans and a mariachi band. So it wasn't everything that you think it would have been. And I mean, it was pretty interesting. I mean, I've never been to Mexico for real, so it was pretty good. So I sat there and enjoyed the band and enjoyed the drink and the cigar and then a second drink. And the band sort of wrapped up, and as I sort of watched this whole evening unfold in the hotel lobby here in Havana, and that's when it happened. I was sitting there at the bar by myself, and that's when the doorman come over and tapped me on the shoulder. And he says, "Are you Brian, the American?" And he says it in his broken Cuban English, right? And, you know, it's got a thick Cuban accent, but you could tell he's pretty proud of the amount of English that he knows, probably from dealing with Canadian and European tourists. And he says, "Are you Brian, the American?" Well, when this happens, if you've ever been to Havana, there are CDR, it's the Committee for the Defense of the Revolution, members on every city block. So wherever we went, we knew that as Americans, and this is 2005, that we were being watched. So suddenly, in my mind, every piece of B-roll tape from every Humphrey Bogart movie is playing through my mind, like, the doorman knows that I'm Brian, the American. I look pretty American. No one confused me for Mexican that night. But I could have been Canadian or European. I mean, who's to judge? But I said to him, in my worst broken Cuban, me llamo is Brian, whatever. So he says, vamos, come with me. And I follow, he says, to the desk. I'm like, so now everything's going in my head. So I'm like, do I have a passport? Do I have some money with me? Do I have my travel papers from the State Department that give me permission? And do I have my visa? Is it still in my passport? I'm checking my pockets. So I push the ashtray back, push the drink back, and I follow him toward the front door to the desk. And that's when he says, "You have a phone call." Now I'm in a little no-name hotel in Havana. Nobody knows where I am. It's impossible because we had made reservations at another place, couldn't get in. This is our second choice. So nobody knew where I was at that moment. But the phone rang at the desk for Brian, the American. I look at the phone, I look at him, I touch my back pocket for my passport one more time, and I grab the phone and I say, "Hello?" And then the voice comes through the other end and says, hey, bring me a bottle of water when you get done down there. I'm thirsty. And then click. It's my roommate. Leroy, 8 floors up. He knew where I was. He knew how to get a hold of me, and he knew that the guy at the front desk would know how to find Brian the American. Cuba's a neat place. It's changing fast, and I've enjoyed my 4 visits there, and proud to say that I've worked hand in hand with Cuban people on important projects along the entire western side of that island. And I'm looking forward to the changes that happen there. And this week's been another story with Brian. Go find a stranger, tell a story, make a new friend, and have a great week.